You want a tech job here?
I have one of these.
Oh.
On your
Yeah, I would tell them, wait.
Wait, okay, well, so you tell me anything you want about this, I'll listen.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
There we go.
Now we're ready. There you go.
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
I'd like to call the Wood Village City Council and Urban Renewal Agency meeting to order, June 11th, 2024. Victoria, nice to see you.
Hello.
Nice to
see
have
all
you
as
with us
well.
tonight.
Thank you.
And do we have a counselor who'd like to read our land acknowledgement?
I can read it since I've been.
Thank you, Counselor Dan.
The Chinookan peoples known as the Clackamas and Cascades are the indigenous people of the land now inhabited by the city of Wood Village and other areas of Columbia River. The village of Nashakli was located near today's Blue Lake Park. Ancestral life of these peoples included a seasonal round of resource gathering and stewardship from the Wapato fields and fishing areas of the Columbia River to the cedar and huckleberry gathering areas of the High Cascades. Introduced disease from early settlers dramatically reduced the number of these people. They signed the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 with the United States government and were forcibly removed to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. We thank the descendants of these tribes for being the original stewards and protectors of these lands and since time immemorial. We also acknowledge the systematic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many Indigenous Native American families today. We are honored by the collective work of many Native nations, leaders, and families who are demonstrating resilience, resistance, revitalization, healing, and creativity. We are honored by the guests upon these lands.
Thank you, Counselor. And if you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, I'll call the Urban Renewal Board meeting to order. We have Stan Dirks from the Urban Renewal Board, and we have Victoria Merriweather with us, and then the council serves as the remainder of the board.
And Council President Rios Campos just pulled in, so.
Okay,
Do we wait or do we press on?
I think we can move forward. Thank you, Seth.
Oh. All right, forgot the steps. All right. I don't know how I got on the pencil. All right. They installed some new features since the last time I used it. Agency Board Chair. Tonight we have for you the Urban Renewal Agency budget adoption. So there'll be two resolutions to go along with this. I'll have a brief presentation. Having time for questions. As you guys know, we have an Urban Renewal Agency.
Does he need a public meeting first? That's what we have. Yep, the detailed one.
Yes,
I don't.
Becky.
You want to open the public meeting?
Oh, okay. Yes, we, if we're opening the meeting, which we are, we've got our renewal board together. We open a public hearing for the urban renewal budget. Hearing is now open.
Great. Thank you. We have an urban renewal district authorized indebtedness of $11.5 million the last time the plan was updated. You can see here the map of what's included within the urban renewal boundaries. This is some excerpts from the 5-year presentation and the proposed. Just to remind, as a reminder, we need to operate in indebtedness. So we started out with a really viable agency in 2016, 17 with our general fund loan. Jump started the utility relocation projects on the byway. Then sold full faith and credit bonds that were backed by the city in 2020. And since then, we have been spending down on projects. For the next few years, we're going to be drawing down fund balance as the byway project came on a little bit lower than we had anticipated based on some of the county calculations. All that to say, for the next 3 to 4 years, we're fairly limited to what we can do within the agency unless there is a new development that comes in that brings significant increment. That's the state agency to this point. And with that, there's not a lot of activity planned for the new fiscal year. We're going to be spending down the projects for the park restrooms and the Halsey Street crossings, or not Halsey Street, Wood Village Boulevard crossings next year. And that'll spend down all of the bond funds. And with that, that will have some room to maneuver around the edges, but not a lot beyond that. So with that, this was a fairly simple budget. What you saw at your proposed meeting on April 25th, the committee didn't make any changes at that meeting, and staff is not proposing any changes for the adopted budget. So the proposed, approved, and adopted are all going to be exactly the same for the Urban Renewal Agency. And just to kind of recap, we still have some funds that we budget in capital outlay and for contingency in case we do get some development incentives. Operations for staff and materials and services and internal service fund charges are run about $100,000 a year. And we also have the debt service payments, both for the original $1.2 million general fund loan, as well as the 2020 full faith and credit. So we have an adopted budget with expenses of $1.6 million. These are the major expenses. And these are the summary points, which I think I've covered in some of the earlier slides. With that, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Well, let's cover any questions or public comments that we may have. Public comments. Council, any questions? Then I'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
I move to adopt resolution URA 2-2024, adopting the Wood Village Urban Renewal District budget as amended for fiscal year 2024, 2025, and making appropriations.
I second the motion.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And Victoria,
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Aye.
okay, you're an aye also. Thank you.
Thank,
Motion passes. The next motion is number 2.
I move to adopt resolution URA 3-2024, certifying to the county assessor a request for the maximum amount of revenue that can be raised by dividing the taxes as provided by the Oregon Constitution and Oregon Statutes 457.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Thank you. Our motions both passed, so we will now move to, we are adjourning our Urban Renewal Board meeting.
And we
Thank
can
you.
start our city budget until at least 6 o'clock. So if you want to, you can.
So
All right.
Victoria, thanks for joining us tonight. Stan?
Yep.
Yeah. Do we,
Thank you.
Thursday, yeah.
You coming?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think the town car is coming to pick you up.
I didn't hear that.
All right, what do we got here? A few minutes? Anything for the good of the order that's,
You can convene because we have stuff to do before the budget, and the budget's just anytime after 6.
so let's
So you can convene the city council.
do it. I'll call the order, call the city council, let's see, convene, yeah, they'll also call the city council meeting to order. And we will now, any citizen, well, we got to hear the budget. Who's present? Where?
Here's citizen comment.
Okay, yeah, okay. Citizen comments?
And there are no citizens' comments this evening.
Okay, good. Public safety report. Now I'm on track.
Right. Good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. Thank you for having me. I am obviously filling in for Lieutenant Stewart is away. So I will uphold his end of the bargain here.
You got a high standard to follow.
I know it. This month, there was 128 dispatched calls for service and 149 self-initiated. The emergency response time was at 4 minutes and 36 seconds, which is within 5 seconds of the previous and the year average. And the non-emergency stood at 6 minutes and 19 seconds for response. There was several traffic crashes, 2 of which were hit and runs. One was in the 38th or 238th in the parking blocks and the other on Coho. There was 1 vehicle reported stolen in the month of May. And then as the report will show, there was 5 recovered stolen vehicles. I met with city councilor just before, excuse me, city manager just before the meeting. And if I get this wrong, I know he'll correct me, but I believe that was a civil matter involving one specific area or one specific family or neighbors.
It was a business that had issues with one another. One business, multiple people. It was an internal issue. So not necessarily like 5, no one dumped 5 stolen cars in our city, put it that way. It was a civil matter, a business matter.
Also this month, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office on Friday, May 10th, worked a joint mission with the Portland Police Bureau, as well as area units and Gresham Police Department. There was 38 traffic stops that resulted in a variety of citations, as well as 3 misdemeanor arrests and 1 felony arrest. And then on Tuesday, May 21st, 1 lieutenant, 3 patrol sergeants, and 4 uniformed deputies conducted a stolen vehicle mission. During this mission, there was only 12 traffic stops. This is going back a ways where they're trying to limit the number of stops using predictive data. Of those 12 traffic stops, 2 of them were stolen. Both of those vehicles eluded to a pursuit, and they were both taken into custody. So 2 custodies and 2 warrants were cleared as well. This month, Comfort Dog Burton was sworn in to duty. So that was a project of mine, if you remember, from a long time ago, that has finally come to fruition. So we're very happy, and I would be remiss to not thank Teresa's Country, as they were a generous sponsor of that, as here in the city of Wood Village, and also Banfield Pet Hospital for his care. As well as the donation of the dog itself. So this month, the detectives unit received the Multnomah County Employee Recognition Award for the Committee's Choice Award. It was presented by Commissioner Sharon Mirren. Essentially, the award was the investigations. There was 550 investigations and resolved approximately 300 for the year 2023. These were predominantly Measure 11 felony assaults and child sex assault crimes. That same year, the detectives responded to 20 critical incidents involving homicides or officer-involved shootings. And the Committee's Choice Award was awarded based on the commitment of the team and the just overall community involvement that they did. With that, that is all that I have prepared for you, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Council?
I know I was gone in the last meeting and you weren't, I don't know if you were here or not. But in the prior meeting, I had talked vehicles that were kind of parked at Freddy's, and you guys took immediate action because I think I went home and the cars are gone. That's, I mean, from the meeting.
Yeah.
That's how quick it was.
Oh, that's
So,
fabulous.
yeah.
want to have an additional update on that specific one as well. So we got a hold of the landowners there. Were I think confused of whose land that was, whether it Lowe's, was it Sire? Especially regarding the semi truck parking. And so there's still some challenges there. On a bright note, the Chick-fil-A has made contact with us to set up a free, I don't want to call it like a pre-app meeting because they have all their approvals, but it's more coordination for the permit process meeting. So they intend to submit the building permits and get that rolling here in the very near future. So hopefully in a month or so, that is all gated off, cordoned off, and under development for our Chick-fil-A, which would then fix the problem moving forward. It's so you have Sola Salon, the driveway, then that grassy field, and then that parking lot where most of where people are parked. It's the grass and the parking lot will be the Chick-fil-A. So the Chick-fil-A is going to build on the grass, and then their parking lot and queue take up the rest of the parking space. So then there really is an excess space like there is today.
Others? Questions? It is good to hear though, that
It was immediate.
particular,
Yeah, most definitely.
yeah. My question was about, first, congratulations on that Community Choice Award.
Thank you.
You guys, deputies, officers, all deserve that as you're doing the work. So congratulations on that. The chair's budget, any impact on what you're going to be able to staff?
Short answer is no, and I understand that you may have contributed a letter to the council and chair moving them. I appreciate that. I know that the city of Fairview did and Troutdale did as well. Essentially, we received one-time funding for the gun disposition deputy that was undercut, and as well as 1-year funding for one addition, not for one additional, but for one remaining child abuse detective. So essentially it is status quo from last year, which I'm thankful for now, and we'll fight the good fight again a year from now.
Yeah, status quo, but there's no, it's a 1-year.
1 year.
Funding, yeah. Well, we'll always be there to help when weapons disposition team for the amount of money that is being spent on that. The results are pretty astounding in what they're bringing and getting guns off the street. So glad we could help.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor and councilors. I appreciate that. And
You guys rock.
It's
I gotta say, everywhere I go, I see
good to see you
Multnomah County
folks.
sheriffs out there everywhere.
And it seems like I get to see you again on Thursday, and I hear I just learned today that the chief deputy and sheriff are also possibly coming. I don't know. The more the merrier. I hadn't heard exactly, but I will be there and I'll look forward to see you.
Well, you'll have to kind of behave yourself then.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for your time.
You bet.
Good evening.
Good evening. Public safety review of bills. Any questions on the bills? We got a consent agenda. Any questions on the consent agenda?
I just want to make a quick comment on the consent agenda. You'll see that we have 2 planning commission appointments on there, and the thought behind not having a more of an interview or interactive process where both had been on the planning commission in the past and had, either still served or had recently served on various boards. So the thought was, their character and decision-making abilities. So we put this under consent for your consideration.
Any questions? A motion to approve the consent?
Approved. I'm sorry. So moved.
We're just skipping right through a lot of stuff tonight.
Is there
Here in 10 minutes.
is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor of approving this consent agenda? Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
And that is, and I didn't call that out, Greg, so thanks for, we do have the returning commissioners as well as council members and parks. people.
And that does round out our planning commission. So it is full once again.
Okay, so with both with Stanley Dirks and with Scott Harden, we now have a full planning commission. Good. Okay, let's see, let's open the we need to open the public hearing on the city budget. Seth?
So opened. All right. We have a short PowerPoint presentation to recap what's gone on with the city budget, similar to the URA. There's a little more going on with the city. And then afterwards, we'll have questions. So significant features, no increases in personnel. All of our operating funds have operating revenues in excess of operating costs. As you know, we've been socking money away into capital equipment and reserves. This year, we made a change in playground equipment into our sinking fund. We also funded the fire service study. That's the big additional time cost for the general fund. And then various community engagement activities, both for emergency management and resiliency and community conversations and general civics. Total budget for the adopted budget this year is 16.2 million. That is an increase from last year. We're carrying some more fund balances, especially in the sinking fund, and building up some balances in the sewer fund in anticipation of our trunk line replacement project. So first, I'm going to cover the changes that the committee made from what the city manager proposed. So the one highlighted in yellow is just a rollover of the park restroom project. You guys had some updates on that and how we planning on going out for bid again in the fall. So that's the biggest dollar amount. We already mentioned the playground equipment sinking fund. We added some funding, $10,000 for the outreach for emergency resilience and community civics conversations that was presented as part of the proposed budget. Fire service study is in there. We also added $12,000 for a community garden that was approved by the budget committee. And then a translation pilot for $12,000 was added for this upcoming fiscal year. So those were all of the items that were considered, proposed by staff for consideration by the budget committee at the April 25th meeting. And all of those were approved and incorporated in the approved budget. So that got us to the approved budget. There's three, that's the second of our three phases now. For the adopted budget, we have a couple of technical corrections and rollovers for you guys to consider. The first is our per site account. We've been carrying over this money, waiting kind of for the interest rate situation to kind of shake out. We've been getting very good returns from the local government investment pool. We've talked about coming back and putting some of that into a longer term option. And we want some flexibility to wait a little while to make sure that we don't buy high and sell low on our investment and buying down our future PERS costs. There's some park signage.
And that is the total amount in the site account. Okay.
Yeah. That would be the amount of contribution this time. We already had put $375,000 in there 3 years ago. So this would be an additional contribution.
Okay, so we got, we're crawling up next to 600.
Yes, it'll be over 600 is what we've deposited and once we make the deposit. The park signage, you guys got an update on this on the Parks Commission. They didn't like our ideas. At the last meeting, they wanted us to come back with some additional design considerations. And so we're taking the money that we had planned on spending and rolling that over until next year. So that's just going to fall to fund balance this year and be available as a resource next year. We had budgeted last year for a tape-based backup system. The state in the fall launched a program with some local government ARPA funding around cybersecurity and resilience that this project qualified for. We submitted an application in January and we have heard back a few weeks ago that we should hear in a few weeks whether or not the project was approved. It sounded like in their last communication from the state that they were going to approve most of the projects that were submitted and eligible. So we've been waiting on this project to see if we can spend grant funds on it rather than our general fund balance. And then well 3, we've been doing some work on that. We're going to have some more work to do. We're not going to get as much work done as we had thought back in March when we put the proposed budget together. And so we're rolling some more of those funds over. The other 2 items are more technical. One is the translation services that we discussed in the committee. we're going to run those through the internal service fund rather than directly as an expenditure of the operating funds. And then there's a true up of the fund balance in the sinking fund. We had the beginning balance was off from what the audited numbers were. So we made a small adjustment to that. So those are the staff proposed changes for the adopted budget. You guys have any questions or concerns about any of those in particular?
Questions, counselors? No questions?
We didn't try and get fancy or funny between the approved and adopted. So hopefully that none of this was a shock to anyone who was looking at it. All right. So just to kind of summarize, we have a $5.4 million operating budget. Our total operating revenues for the year increased by 3.6%. Our total operating expenditures went up 3.8%. I said we have positive net operating margins in all of our operating funds. The utilities funds, we haven't actually have increased our net operating margin. It's not just positive, it's actually growing larger, but in our general fund and streets, that is smaller than it was last year, which we've addressed the funding, structural funding issues for both the general fund and the street fund. It's not a new thing, and we're continuing to monitor and work around the edges to make sure that that still stays positive and we fight off the erosion of our operating margin. With that, we have a series of motions here. We have 4 separate motions. The first one is to allow for the receipt of state shared revenues.
And before we do that, I want to go back and see if there's any public comment. Nope, nothing. Then we'll close the public hearing. And the first motion is in front of you, in front of our desk. So if there,
I move to approve resolution 14/2024 certifying municipal services provided for the purpose of establishing eligibility for the receipt of state shared revenue for fiscal year 2024-25.
I second.
moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This next one, we are making appropriations, and we have this split into 2 motions, one of which excludes the general fund recreation services and one of which approves just the general fund recreation services.
And that should say as amended.
Yes.
As amended, okay. And let's see, we're excluding plays, so
The second
On
motion.
the second one.
on the second one, okay.
Second motion.
Somebody want to make a motion there?
I move to approve resolution 15-2024, adopting the city of Wood Village budget for fiscal year 2024-25 and making appropriations
As amended.
as amended and making appropriations excluding general fund recreational services.
I second.
And moved and seconded, all those in favor of this motion? Aye. Thank you. Next motion.
I just publicly recuse myself from this motion.
Counselors?
Oh. I move to amend resolution 15-2024 to include appropriations for general fund recreational services for fiscal year 2024-25.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Those 3 counselors are voting on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moves.
All right, last one. This is the important one. We need to get the money from the county for the property taxes. And there's no
Okay.
restrictions on who can vote on.
There it is. We got to go get the money.
Got to get the money.
I'm,
We got to get.
all right, I'm going to chase the money. I move to approve resolution 16-2024 levying and categorizing ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Mayor, Council.
Thanks, Seth, and for the work on the budget. Now we can not only, we can even go get the money. There we go. All right.
Ice cream now, right?
Ice cream. Well, we're going to celebrate on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Have a nice day.
Response.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been working with my grandchildren too much. We get ice cream every time we do something right. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing, Counselor.
Yeah.
I never got ice cream growing up. I never did anything right.
Oh.
We'll get a box for you.
Okay.
Back
all right.
Thursday.
All right. Resolution 17, 2024.
Thank you, Mayor, Counselor. So this is talking about updates to our park reservation policy and program.
Council application.
Oh,
The
gosh,
interviews.
jumped right over that one.
Okay.
Thank you, Becky. Let me touch on that one really quick. So we had scheduled council interviews. We did have one applicant, that was Patricia Smith. Most of you have worked with her, know her, whatnot. And so the thought was not do the standard application process, but have opportunity to ask individual questions since it's not against any other person. And talking with Pat, she's like, yep, I'll be there on Tuesday. Followed up with, oh shoot, I forgot. I booked a class every Tuesday in June from 6 to 8 p.m. Can we move it to July? So the decision before you is you could, take action tonight or just wait until July and have the process and then make your motion to appoint or not.
So, thanks, Greg, for that follow-up there, because I know we talked about this, but I didn't know you had that class, so.
Yeah, that was found out after she said she'd be here on Tuesday and she can't be here any Tuesdays in June.
Oh, okay, that's right. You did tell me that. So, Patricia Smith, everybody,
Right up on there.
her application is in there. Any concerns?
No.
Then, let's move forward then and approve her application and welcome her back to the city council.
Okay,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, so,
I'll let her know and you'll see her in July.
yeah, and you can, go to her classes. So, good, thanks, Greg.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Now on to the resolution, unless I skipped something.
Good thing you're here for a lot of us.
All right. Policy reservation program. All right. So this was first brought to you all back in March, trying to be a little proactive on the staff side related to park reservations, park uses, park facilities, that we're seeing more requests. And we were seeing more multi-day requests from outside people, agencies, et cetera. And so the thought was, let's bring this to you now before it becomes a bigger thing. We're trying to address these questions in real time. And the spectrum that was presented to you all was, do we create basically a full-blown reservation, set dates, increased fees kind of program, or make tweaks to the current one that prioritizes certain users? We create defined areas, maybe put some bookends on this. The council at that meeting said, we kind of like just modifying what we have, but run it through Parks Commission. So we met with the Parks Commission on May 1st, and they recommended basically just tweaks to the current policy that doesn't create the full-blown intent system, but rather just optimizes what we currently have in place. So what this will look like, the multi-purpose field will be split into 5 sections. Section 1, and there's a map on the next slide, basically is available to anyone to use family recreation events, various sporting activities, et cetera. Other additional fields will be, essentially part short of the ball diamond, priority, whether it's community members, Play East and its affiliates. So again, and then just open space for the general people. Play East and its partners and the city have priority for programming throughout the year. So it's not like a March 1st date, everyone has to get in the reservations. It's Play East works with us, and they obviously has worked well with us on what the programming looks like for them and their partners. We know when our events are. So again, those get programmed first. Everyone else falls behind that. Full field reservations, which we've had a few, mostly for some soccer ones, even the last couple of weeks here. They're going to be limited to, community partners, the city, or just known affiliates that are in good standing with the city. So again, if we're going to be using up an entire public space for a certain use, there ought to be some sort of public benefit or a public partnership for that use. So this memorializes that. And then all park facility reservations, excluding any kind of Play East events or those special one-offs, are maximum for 4 hours per person or group. So again, someone wants the picnic shelter, it's a 4-hour block of time. Someone wants a gazebo, 4-hour block of time. So it helps others use it throughout the day, or just creates open space throughout the day. So those are the main revisions to the current programming. And again, this is how the fields lay out. Section closest to the plaza and the picnic shelter, the ball field, and then just the other sections there with always a section available for open play and free space. So if you decide to approve this, any current reservations currently underway won't be impacted by this. We're considering them. They've already applied under the current program, but future reservations will fall under this program. We've already drafted some updated forms and materials, and certainly we'll market the park space, especially the ball diamonds when we're trying to push out there, letting people know it exists, whether it's for softball or kind of recreational kickball and that kind of thing, so get some use out of it. This work achieves City Goal 3 for our high quality cost effective public utilities, parks and events. What questions may I answer?
Questions? When I've been, just recently, I was down here at the, where the barbecues are. And again, fantastic, facilities down there. If a family comes in, and we've probably talked about this, but if a family comes in, they got, a reunion or something, and they're going to, want to reserve one of those areas. Is there a limit on the time they can be there?
So we don't actually allow reservations on the picnicking areas.
Okay.
So typically, if they want to make sure they get a barbecue, space, the picnic shelter is the one that most gravitates towards. If they have like a very official larger party, they'll ask for the picnic shelter. There's a barbecue adjacent to it. Right now, there wasn't a limit on how many hours, but there will be moving forward.
Okay. So, all right, that maybe is coming back to me now that there is no reservation for that area.
Yes, for all of our picnicking spaces, there aren't specific reservations for tables or any specific facility.
Okay.
Essentially keeping it first come, first serve. And then we'll be expanding the one in the Grove here, hopefully this fall, springtime.
Well, they're popular.
Very
from what
popular.
I can see. Yeah.
Right now, there's a small gathering right now.
I saw that
Yeah.
when we got in.
They don't share.
Me food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all showed up out there.
Yeah. Well, Greg, then I think, like any of these things we adopt, we monitor them and we check them, and if there's an issue and if some tweaking that needs to be done, you'll bring it back to us. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay. Motion's in front of us.
I move to approve resolution 17-2024, authorizing city staff to update their reservation policy for facilities at Donald L. Robertson Park.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay. Now, get your seatbelt on.
It's the hardest one.
All right.
I really enjoyed reading this.
Yeah. We had, Greg, I'm gonna let you talk here in just a minute, but again, it always takes a little bit of time to go through this and think about it. And I've read them, and I think we've all read them, and certainly some very positive comments here. Becky, thanks for collating that. And
That was actually Caroline. I was in Vegas.
Well, it's in Vegas. Okay.
And you,
Caroline, thanks for collating that. I see your name.
oh,
All right, Greg, is there,
Yeah,
go ahead now.
like last year, certainly when it came out and was collated, I read it, and then I've thought about it and typed up a very brief kind of reflection and some key themes. So I don't know if we want to go through the eval first and highlight the key themes and thoughts, and then my reflection, or it's really however you want to present it, but I can hand this out now.
Well, I think we've all read it. So Greg, why don't you, talk to us about your reflections? Yes, your theme. And certainly if anybody has particular questions on any one of those areas.
I just have does this not under executive session, or is this?
I requested it in open.
He likes it to be
All
open.
right.
And I will actually touch on that, right? That's how I'll start. So I did request this under open
Oh, yeah.
session. Again, I've said this in the past, and while evaluations of our internal team are certainly kept confidential, either between myself and the director team or directors and their team, I feel it's important as the city manager that the public has an opportunity to understand your views of my performance. And so there's opportunities for other comments or things to come in and just be fully transparent on what you all think of the performance and the responsibilities of the city. So that's why I do request it in a full open session, which is unique and rare, but
Well,
As
it
am
is
I.
unique, but if that's the way you like it and it seems to be going pretty well, we'll move forward that way. All right, Greg.
so I won't read everything word for word, but I broke it up in a couple of themes based on common is a focus. So starting off with the annual performance plan, I mean, certainly we do our best and yeah, things pop up throughout the year. Fire has been a big one this current year, will continue to be a big one next year. That also feeds into, that working with other partners and other agencies and where do you push for things that we need and where do you pull back to make sure you don't burn a bridge, pun intended. And so that's going to be key leading ahead where, especially when larger partners and agencies, I'll just say like Multnomah County, which is responsible for the ambulance service plan, which is a key feature for fire and EMS service. Building that bridging relationship to craft the new ambulance service plan in a way that allows us to be flexible in how we may deliver service in the future, while still pushing on other things like the joint office and, getting services for our unhoused members. So there's going to be that tension, but again, it's where do you push and where do you pull back? Looking at the upcoming annual performance plan, we're already working on it and are getting pretty close to launching a program inside Wood Village Green for mini split units to keep them comfortable both in the summertime for AC, but then more efficient heat in the wintertime. And so just looking already ahead at next year's APP and where could we work now to get ahead and roll things out. So that's a kind of little touch on the annual performance plan and just how we think about it holistically. For the leadership assessment.
Let me just, why don't we'll take them one at a time and then just see if there's any questions about that in particular annual performance plan. Greg's reflection there.
I think it's spot on with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's spot on with what we, our focus as a council, the fire and the joint office, I think is, right up those alleys of creating those partnerships, but holding them accountable. And I think that's exactly what you're referring here. So.
Thank you. All right. Leadership.
And I know this was certainly called out in a comment of wanting more of my input on where that growth or opportunities lie. And certainly I have made no bones about my disdain for trainings from the LSC, that's League of Oregon Cities or Oregon City County Management Association. I think they've gotten a bit soft. And so I like trainings that push the envelope, that make you think differently, that challenge the status quo, and just haven't seen those there. That said, that's not an excuse to not find those opportunities that push, whether it's myself or things we bring back for the organization. Something I worry about from time to time is just becoming complacent or stagnant, not so much in that ignoring the essentials of the day-to-day. We've got budget, we've got audit, we've got utility management, we've got customer service standards. It's that we stop looking at those and going, are they still relevant and applicable today? Are we still seeing what best practices are? And I like to use best practices, not what common practice is. A lot of trainings are, these cities are doing X, Y, and Z, and it's thought of as best practice, but sometimes it's just, that's what they're doing. It's just common practice. So I need to find what that training is. And I've actually started looking at the National Academy of Public Administration. It's more research based, but it marries, practical application and research together. And it really is producing some incredible work and thought. So I might dive into that versus like ICMA, that's the International City Managers Association, which again, kind of gotten soft. So looking into that, I also, this past fall time, took a confidence seminar, something that sometimes my confidence is always the best. And sometimes you just have to say compared to what, because compared to people in that cohort, I was fine. So sometimes you feel better about yourself just based on recency and who you're surrounded with. But it was still a meaningful experience and opportunity. And So always, again, looking at those opportunities to make sure that I don't get stale and that I'm always looking at fresh eyes and fresh perspectives for what's out there, whether it's for the team, the organization, or community members.
What was the
Well-
takeaway? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say that in years past, we would waiting on Public Works and sending out people to become more certifications and things like that. But then all of a sudden they would disappear as soon as they got them. So then we, it was like, okay, well, that's great for the other cities that were paying for their
Training, yeah.
education and stuff, and then they'd disappear on us. And you're one of the first people that we ever got back from somebody else that had paid for your education. So that was our first payback that I'm aware of. And so, unless you guys know better. than that.
Not so much from other cities, but we kind of jokingly, but it is true. We hire exceptional talent from organizations that have a depth of training, mostly on the private side, but are just poorly led organizations. So we've hired people from Nationwide that do great customer service training. Providence, great customer service training. That's not the best as employers. So when we can carve them off and utilize those trainings, we're just the better for it. And I do want to mention, while I've maybe struggled finding the right continuing education opportunity, we still push it for the entire team and send people out to regular conferences, trainings, conventions, short schools, classes. So it's very much part of our DNA as an organization to keep the team up to date.
Oh, good. Okay.
Counselor Stan, you?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, what was like a takeaway from that conference that you want to apply?
I mean, part of it really is there's just a lot of sad people out there that don't realize what they bring in terms of themselves. And so then it kind of forced me to look at myself differently of what I bring. So I think that was the biggest takeaway.
And that in particular one, I know that was, I know Greg was looking for something that would maybe reinforce or challenge himself there. And that's one of the things about this, and I just want to say this, and I think we all agree to this. We're not interested in you just going out and signing up for classes so you can say you did that. It's really, you're a seasoned city manager. It's really about the things that are going to mean something to you. And I wanted to have a little conversation when we finish this, and I'll just tell you now, is this the right tool that's helping you grow as a city manager and what we're doing here? But we can have that conversation a little bit later or another time. But again, you pursued that and you looked at it. And that's all we can ask is that you as you said and termed it here, it is easy to get complacent once something kind of, you got all the wheels greased and you got a good staff. It's pretty easy to start to set back. And I know that when that happens, that is vulnerable. You become vulnerable with your council or who it is you're ever reporting to. So you have embraced that.
Well, and there's certainly on the utility side, I think a lot of opportunity, not just for me, but for the organization and really better understanding our system, optimizing our system. We've done a lot, IT, security, finance, and not that we don't get to ignore those now. We just get to see how what we built is functioning and making sure it's functioning as we designed it. There's also a lot of opportunity on utility management, just to better understand it, not for ourselves, but for people behind us. So still a lot of growth opportunities. I'm not worried about being complacent just yet. I just don't ever want to be complacent or get just blinders on.
All right.
My only comment there, and you kind of touched on it, Greg, with looking elsewhere, like nationally. So it seems like you're already doing that because sometimes, as a small city, you can only get so much from your state. and what they offer, just, so looking outside that nationally, you can learn a lot, from other cities, as bigger municipalities and jurisdictions, so.
And it's just sometimes like, again, LSC, OCCMA, it can feel like it could be where everyone's just marching in the direction A, and they don't even see that LMNOP are out there as things to explore or ask about. And so I'm interested in what the rest of the alphabet has to offer.
People management?
So yeah, a lot of comments, both I call, internal, whether it's staff, and then external, whether it's other agencies, organizations, or community members. Certainly a lot of good comments on that. And my reflection was I struggle. I mean, I'm blessed with a great team that do wonderful things. And so sometimes I feel like I'm taking credit for their work. I then get reminded that I create and sustain a workplace that encourages getting the best work out of people, that encourages being safe to ask challenging questions or to challenge things. And that's where I'd rather someone bring me a problem, and just an earnest problem. There are other agencies and organizational folks that say, don't bring me a problem without a solution. And that's fine, well, and good. And it could also dismiss someone who sees something from an outside perspective that says, here's a problem, but because they're not vested in whether that department, program, or whatnot, they don't know what the solution is. And so that robs an organization of seeing a problem and bringing it forward and crafting solutions with those that are appropriate to craft it. So I just say, bring me problems. And I'd rather know about them earlier than not. And, we've done well thinking differently, again, with our internal organization not being stuck to a rigid structure of, we have to fill this position and that person leaves, so we have to fill it again. We look at what is the need and outcome we want, and how best do we fill that need and outcome. And sometimes that's an internal reorganization. Sometimes that's going out for recruitment. Sometimes it's both. And so I've really enjoyed that about the flexibility, both that you allow me to have, as well as the team getting around that. And then just to touch on outside agencies and organizations, I brought it up earlier. There's a time when you need to push and lean in to say, no, we demand X, Y, and Z. And there's a time to say that's not the fight to have today. Then, because you really do need to build the bridges and maintain the bridges, especially as a smaller organization, and understanding where the resource and support can come from, whether it's county, metro, various state agencies and departments. You never know when you're going to need them, and you're going to need them. So you might be able to get short-term results by being nasty, but it's going to come into longer-term cost.
Comments from anybody on that? I would, again, one of the things, again, as I think about the organization here, it's really, the evaluation is a reflection of the whole organization, but you're the one that has to set the standards. And I think one of my comments was, and I say this in front of the whole staff too, that sometimes it's hard to have those hard conversations when you've been working with somebody real close. And just to remind all of us that you can't shy away from those. You can't assume everybody knows what's going on, or why somebody did something, or what the communication was. And so I think that's real important in the organization. And I'm not suggesting at all that doesn't happen. But I think it's always important to remind ourselves that, are we being honest with each other? If there's something that is not working right, but I don't want to say it. We all can collect this kind of culture that we all think the same. And that does start to happen. So, and it is good to be able to question each other. So I think you do that. I think you have the environment here that allows that, Greg, and probably encourages it. I'm pretty sure it does.
Believe so, but
Yeah. So
they're all too afraid to say no. So I'm going to get.
oh yeah, of course they are.
Well, the pulse that I get from everyone that works in the city and the contractors out that you saw what I wrote is that I'd be willing to work for you. So there's and trust me, I have a high
Standard,
what
standard.
standard of somebody that I want to work for. And you definitely hit that mark for me. So that's the highest compliment I can pay you. I love everybody that works for the city. So and I'd love to work with every one of them as well. So that's just another boundless compliment that I can give. And that's why I like serving on the council as well. It's an absolute joy to be here.
Other comments?
Just, having gone through so many staff turnover, just the ability to within your leadership, do a reorg and see what you already have and look at what you truly need. I think that's also very important because there's other organizations that just continue to leave voids even though they're needed. And so I think that that's important in this. People management is now the new expectation of everybody else and what that truly looks like. So I think you guys done that really well.
When again, in a smaller organization, it could be hard for advancement opportunities or new learning opportunities. And so just whenever we get that chance, you don't ever like to lose people. And when you do, you can also see it as an opportunity, and someone else who may want to grow or learn something new may have that opportunity. So it's nice to evaluate it. It doesn't always happen every time. It's also nice to just make sure that you look at that before you go out for a recruit and just see what's your internal talent and what are they hungry for.
Craig, can we just take a second here? I'm trying to read something, so I'm going to pause for a minute.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
can read
great.
the community engagement and
I was just thinking about change management, like we go through a lot and some of the changes are meant to happen for other things, for other opportunities to come up or for us to kind of reevaluate where we are and what changes we need to make to improve. So it's good.
you do have a staff that I know at On Point that, you're constantly, training new
Mhm.
and promoting others and, retaining who you want to retain. So community engagement.
This is one of those areas where it's never easy, but I'm going to say it's easy and it's fun. And part of why it's easy is because you as council said, this is a priority. You need to do it. And whatever tools you need to effectively do it, go forth and do. Seth has famously said in other larger organizations and things, sometimes you spend more of your time fighting the organization to get something done than just doing the thing. You allow us to do this stuff. When we brought forward the whole translation concept, you're like, yeah, makes sense. Go do. It wasn't a back and forth or whatnot. When we meet with community members or other groups, it's, make them understand what they need, what they want, where the gaps are, where we're succeeding. So you just have already given the direction just to go do the work. And it is nice. I mean, it's nice to hear that, when we're doing some good stuff, community members, whether they come in or out in the community. There's also the comments in the eval about just acknowledging where we weren't optimal and where there were some stumblings. And I think as people and community members, as long as we want great service, and that's always our goal. And when we don't deliver that, at least acknowledging it lets them know, like, okay, they're not trying to shine anything on. They're not playing a smoke and mirrors game. They know they dropped a ball. Everyone's human. Let's learn from it and move on. And I also don't mind having those conversations because it's just acknowledging where we have growth opportunities. And like I said, your policy has made it fun to work on.
I'll make just one comment because you've shared it with me. We had maybe this one, I don't know, it's one of those other categories, but we had a new store going in here at the Byway.
Mhm.
And the person that was making signs for two of our businesses here, it wasn't the business owner, it was the person making the signs was not getting permits and just moving forward. hanging signs and, designing signs. So Greg had to write, after several conversations with the individual, had to write kind of a serious letter about you need to get the permits or the fine is going to be $1,000, I believe a day, wasn't it?
A day per sign.
Yeah. So I wrote the kind of letter that needed to be written, in my opinion, at that point. And the individual did respond. And from that point forward, it's worked out. I mean, the contractor understands and has been most cordial, I think. I don't want to exaggerate that, but so the point is there are times when sometimes in the community, you do got to take a stand. And then how you handle that when the parties all come together becomes the true test of leadership.
Yeah,
So-
and there's that example. We've got a other couple kind of building permit related stuff, hasn't had anything to bring to a council level yet. I hope it doesn't get to that point, but yes, it's easy to handle the fun and good stuff. You can also be understanding and help with someone walk through if they've missed a couple steps while still holding them accountable.
Fiscal operations and management.
I actually just want to,
go back?
I just
Yeah,
want
go ahead.
to, those are important things to highlight as well. When we look at, when I think of community engagement is obviously more direct with the community. And so, but those are very important. But I think what Greg demonstrates in this is the intentional part of that, of the intentional community engagement, because folks, other organizations always put community engagement, and it's not always intentional. It's just checking off a box. And I do appreciate Greg really making the effort of highlighting the intentionality of what is it that not only will the city gain from it, but those that he is interacting will benefit as well. So it's not just let me get something out of it or the city's going to get something out of it. It's let me help you get what you need by getting what I also need from the city. So just wanted to share that piece as well.
I want to just echo that too, because our effort at community engagement, the term intentional outreach only came to me in the last 3 years working here or volunteering here and really understanding what that means. I mean, I saw it, but understanding what it means. And I believe we're doing it in spades. And yeah, I would reinforce that 100%.
Thanks to you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You rock, brother.
No, Greg rocks.
Well, I'm speaking of this team.
Council and city goal, so it makes it explicit, go forth and do. So again, not trying to fight the organization to go forth and do. And this lastly, again, there are a lot of comments on the fiscal management of the city and responsibility. Again, great team that over the past, couple of years have really put a lot of pieces together that not just strengthen us today, but hopefully set up the future us for great success. And, we're working now on utility management, full standard operating procedures and better understanding how various components work and work in tandem. So as we do have a turnover and things change, we've memorialized some of these things. Or as we're training up new people, they get a deeper understanding of how not just how the well works. I mean, it's you turn the motor on, it pumps water up, goes to distribution system. It's how does it work in relation to the system? Just one example. So that's what we're working on the period ahead. But like I said earlier, just because we've gotten some new financial things done or some programming things done, the work never ends. And that's the biggest thing is, the work's never over. Don't want to get complicit. Say lazy, not in the sense, again, not lazy in the day to day, just lazy in that you're just letting the car drive itself and you're not monitoring it. I don't have that. I have the fear that I all have the fear. I don't have that. And there's always something to do and fun to learn and grow. And again, it's not just for us here today. It's hopefully setting up the future us that we're leaving it a little better because we were here.
Any comments? Okay, well, Greg, congratulations on your evaluation. Do we, I'm not sure that we need anything else at this point.
The raise or
Yeah,
We
the,
do talk
are you
about,
topped off now?
Yeah,
it's,
officially this time for real.
Officially this time for all. Okay.
Yep.
So then it's the merit.
Yeah, the merit bonus, if so desired.
okay, so I forgot that we do this together, or we have.
And it's
So,
just an awkward conversation for me to have talked about my own raise, so it's not.
well, here's
something I
here's what we did.
Transparency.
We've done this in the past. Here, it's again maybe a little unusual, but we've done it, or have I've seen it done. So here, so what I've always asked is, if we're going to talk right now a raise, what I'd like to hear is what are some of the comparables, all right, of city managers same size. Now, you have that information. That's only one factor, though. Our raises that staff have we built into our contract. I need to hear about that before I can talk about a raise, or certainly
So
for me.
typically, for our pay positions, we have pay scale ranges, and once a person's topped out, then we do the annual COLA increase for increasing the actual wage, and then if they're topped off, a one-time merit bonus, which is usually
3-ish.
3 to 5%. Because it does go up to 5% for the max.
Someone working through their steps, the step is 5%. I think our average tends to be, because it's 5%, but based on your performance, it could be 6.5. I think we average more about 6% for those working through the step progression. But again, as Becky said, once topped out, we actually have a merit bonus program. That's just a one-time payment. Yeah, 3 to 5-ish%.
Well, we have all exceptionals except for two.
That would probably hit the 5%.
Beg pardon?
You,
Yeah, how come we don't have a scoring on that thing? So for our standard other evaluations of
that's
employees,
what I was.
we have like a score range that it comes to calc between that 3 to 5%.
Yeah, so everything on a staff's eval, everything's numbered, and then you add up the numbers, that spits out whether it's what percent of a merit bonus or their step comes out to. So there's no, it's easier.
Yeah.
There's no hard and fast rule for the city managers. I think in the past.
Put one out though off of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that should be a factor.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's what I was
What is,
Just trying to work up one that you can work with.
well, and there should be some, I think that certainly is important. And what's the COLA? What have we been given?
The COLA this year is 3.1.
Is what?
3.1%. So that actually increases the wage. So that's compounding. The merit bonus does not.
So that
Yeah.
would be, in my book, it'd be 8.1.
And what about, Greg, what are some comparables in our, at least, I don't want to know about, somebody down in Southern Oregon, but just in the Portland metropolitan area.
So we do have a full comp schedule coming up. So it's been a little bit since I looked at city managers, but Fairview's, because there's to the recruitment, I'm not sure where they'll start their new person. Their bottom end, I want to say, was 145, topping out 175, 180, somewhere in there.
Is that Fairview you said?
Fairview city manager. And again, I'm ballparking that one. I know it's somewhere in that range. Troutdale, I think their manager was either upper 70s or very low 180s. Generally in the Portland metro area, it's not uncommon to see, I'll call it the lower end between like 145 to 160 kind of on the bottom end. There are some cities in the metro that you're well over 200. We are not them, nor would I want to be them.
And we had you on a step. You're at the top now, correct?
Top now, which I believe was about 160-ish, give or take for the top.
Okay.
Which seems to fit, I think, the complexity of the organization, size of organization in the metro region. And that's one thing that the merit bonus does. It doesn't change that. Yes, it's additional compensation, but the range itself doesn't change. So not that I'm planning on going anywhere, but let's just say November, a whole new council comes in and wants a fresh manager. The range would still be about the same.
Okay. So you're at 160 round numbers now?
I can pull it up if you want.
And Greg, what was the percentage increase we gave you last year?
5%.
5%, okay.
Mhm.
And that was plus COLA.
Correct. So my contract, I get COLA. It's built into the contract.
Yeah, okay.
Neighboring cities.
145,
Yeah, you got it right.
175.
Yeah, I can check
170.
Fairview's real.
I
It was
just looked at-
145
I
to
just looked at it.
175.
Yeah.
Oh, so I was pretty close.
Yeah,
You were spot on.
170 to 180 in Troutdale, roughly.
I believe so.
Yeah.
We tend not to talk numbers when we're all together. I know Gresham just
You should.
did their contract, but I don't know what that landed at.
Thing is
Yeah.
driving me nuts.
Okay. And what we always want to be doing is looking at comparables.
63.
163. Okay. And look at, again, what I think is happening within the staff and within the organization and how the other members of the organization are being treated. And we always, I certainly should be looking at doing what we can to retain our best and our more skilled and talented people.
Guess I should go.
And sometimes that means we look at the percentages and we want to be on the top. I don't think there's any question about that.
Whatever we do, we need to add the COLA because my goodness, the cost of living has.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he gets, he
That's
automatically
already
gets,
built in.
he already
Yeah.
automatically gets the COLA.
Yeah, he's got the COLA
Yeah.
of 3.1. I
Yeah.
think I heard you say, Becky.
Yeah.
So that's why I was saying 8.1.
I don't think we'll have to worry about so the COLA is automatic,
Yeah.
even if we don't give
Right.
him a raise.
Yeah, so he'll get a raise. He's got the COLA.
Yeah.
Everybody did.
So even if we said,
Okay.
no, we
Okay.
don't want to give him a raise, he's still gonna get his COLA.
Yes.
So
That's-
let me
yeah.
roll back around that you're at the top.
Correct.
You don't get a step increase. And you've been giving step increases in the range of, did I hear 5%?
So
Not
the
step,
merit,
Excuse me.
the merit bonus,
Bonus.
Yeah,
merit bonus is anywhere from 3 to 5%.
okay,
So for the excellent-ish all the way down, it's 5%.
okay. There,
But it's not
We
a
got-
one time, right?
pardon
That
me.
is a one time.
Yeah, it's a one-time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
One time.
time merit bonus. So it increases your annual wage
Without
for that year,
increasing
but
the-
it's not
that-
compounding.
Oh,
Yes.
So if we all, other questions, Councilor Tan on, as you're hearing these numbers? Okay.
She's just making sure everybody's math's right.
I'm just doing my math.
You do the math.
Just don't blame me.
Let me propose something and then let's, or if somebody else wants to propose something.
I'll jump in and
Yeah.
I propose we do give Greg the 5%. I
I
think
agree.
with the evals and just looking at what we've all kind of scored and those averaged, we don't get nothing less than what is it, satisfying.
Mhm.
And I think seeing the work that Greg does, other cities are waiting for us to mess this up. I'll say it like that. You know, so I think just like the mayor said, we want to do everything we can to keep, you know, our best people kind of happy and make sure that they're staying here. So I'll say that.
Others?
I agree
I-
with the 5%.
Yeah, and that's about where you were going, I think,
Yeah, that's what it
counselors. So certainly, and again, consistent with the organization here and how we want to treat people and how we want to try to retain our best and our brightest. So that would give you a 5% increase, and that would put you, did you do the math? I want to know what the.
That was
what it-
8,000. Let me do, or
It was
was it 160, right? 8,150.
Yeah, so how much?
It was 163 is what his salary, right?
Yeah, and then what'll
And
it
then
be?
we'll multiply it by, you said
5%.
0.05, so 8,150.
What'll it be?
8,150.
Okay, so now roughly you got 163 now, and we'll take you up to 8, so you're hitting 171 roughly. But and I want to know that number because I want to know how we're comparing with other communities. So I think
Solid number, and a very generous number. So thank you, because I also don't want to screw it up. And, you know, I do appreciate the compensation. I think all the team appreciates the compensation schedule we have, the bonus structures in place. It's also, you know, how the organization operates. And I know with my wife's condition, you and the team have been more than accommodating and letting me take time needed to just be with her. So certainly, my love and heart for Wood Village goes beyond compensation, but I do want to thank you for it.
well, you're welcome, and I want to just take a vote on that, so it's in the record. All those in favor of a 5% increase for Greg this year, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well-deserved, Greg, well-deserved, and you know, some of the comments in here, and I think Counselor Clark, you had one of them, the guy I wanted to work for. I certainly, you know, he's Mr. Wood Village. So he's dedicated and loyal to the city. All right, if we're done with paying him off.
Now get to work.
Above table.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments for the good of the order?
I've got two. One's just a reminder for the celebration this Thursday,
Yes.
6 o'clock. Yep.
Yeah.
And so we'll have refreshments and things. The dinner will be served, I think, around 6:30. The second one, I've been working with Council President in his Play East role. We've learned that the provider who does a lot of the soccer stuff, recreational soccer things, is looking for a different facility and will be at some point taking away the goals and things. And the thought would be to use some of the Play East money to buy new goals that would essentially be city goals because of just people like the goals in the park, but they'd be city goals using our Play East support money. I was just working with the team on whether it's going to be this fiscal year or next fiscal year, but we'll certainly work with Council President on that timing. And the goals will be here still for a little bit, it sounds like. So not the big rush, but just want to get council's thoughts on that use of the Play East support money.
I have down for the appreciation dinner at 5. Hope I thought I took that. right.
I thought we had dinner at
It-
6.
It's 6. on the
It starts
card.
at 6 with the appetizers and then dinner at 6:30. And for those of you who weren't here last year, it's around the backside.
Oh, yeah.
It's what?
It's on the backside.
It's on the backside of the building.
Okay.
We had some people try to get in.
Yeah. We'll put up more signs this time, but yes.
And the weather looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, we lucked out so far.
No. No, I said the
Yeah,
75.
Counselor Clark can come at
75.
5 to come help.
Oh, that's what I heard you say. 5.
Yeah, 75 degrees.
Okay, so we got the appreciation dinner date or time settled. The question about the goals, anybody Counselor Real Campus want to say anything else? or-
I can just add, I think this provider bringing the goals here has really been a benefit to not only Play East and the community in the park. So that's kind of where our thought process was, that we want to continue to have that amenity available for folks to use. Play East in this programming and just have it as an equipment here. So that's just really the thought process behind it. And those goals aren't cheap, but at least they'd be something durable and something now the city can have a little bit more of that management aspect too. And since they were another provider, it's, this back and forth. And so it just provides, I think, some
Permanent.
clarity and just autonomy towards the city to be able.
Permanence.
Yeah, and permanency.
It's, are those concreted in?
No,
They're
they're-
portable. They're heavy. I know.
They're heavy, but they
Yeah.
slide or you
Okay.
can kind of drag
That's
them
only,
around.
that's the only question I need, that
I struggle dragging them around, but I'm sure
Well,
someone of
I used to,
reasonable health.
drag them around
can
myself.
around.
All right, any other for the good of the order?
Just quick reminder, I won't be here for the second June meeting.
Okay, thank you for that reminder.
We're gonna buy cake. for them.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Mayor.
Nothing.
Congratulations, Greg.
All right. All right, then we're adjourned.
Thank you.